Hey folks, today we're going to talk about the South Florida rental market. Is it worth investing in short-term rentals? That's something you've been thinking about? Stick around, find out what's going on. We're the Morris Group. I'm Kev.
And I'm Suze.
And welcome to Living in Fort Lauderdale with Kev and Suze. We're local realtors, and as much as we love doing our videos, and we're out here on a beautiful Sunday afternoon doing our videos, we really like helping folks with the real estate questions and queries and concerns.
And we appreciate all the support and the comments that we've gotten, so let's get started and jump on in.
Short-term rentals, or STRs as they're commonly known, are essentially rentals that are less than 30 days continuously or a month, whichever is less. They will generally generate a lot more revenue than a traditional rental, but they require a lot more work and a lot more effort and a lot more management. Vacation rentals have always been popular here in Florida. Everything from going and spending a week at Disney to going and spending the entire season. Pretty much everywhere in Florida, it's been very, very popular for a long, long time. But recently, what we've seen is what they're calling short-term rentals. We've seen a lot of them come around with the advent of things like Airbnb and VRBO. They're really becoming very popular. So to frame this, we'll look at two main scenarios. Scenario number one is taking your principal residence, your residence down here, and turning it into a short-term rental, or going out and actually targeting an area that has short-term rentals there, making the investment in one and getting everything turned up. And there are things that are considerations that are common to both, and there are a couple of things that are specific to one or the other.
Our first question, Kev, what is considered an STR, a short-term rental in Florida?
An STR is any dwelling or unit or residence, including but not limited to condominium, a house, a townhome, a co-op, anything like that, that is going to be rented whole or in part to what is known as a transient occupant for a period of less than 30 days or 1 month, whichever is less. You can't rent it out for more than a month or 30 days. If it's a calendar month and it goes more than 31 days, it's 30 days. If it's February with 28 days, then basically it's a month of February. That's kind of how it works.
Can any resident be a short-term rental?
Essentially, yes. Aside from the very strict definition of condos and units and stuff like that, any residence that's not registered as a timeshare can qualify to be a short-term rental. So it can be your principal residence, it can be a condo or a house that you buy specifically for doing it. But as we'll discuss going further, there are some differences, some nuances to doing short-term rentals from your principal residence or your primary residence here in Florida, as opposed to going out and buying a property that you're going to purchase specifically for the purpose of renting it out for a short period of time.
Do you need a license for a short-term rental?
Being that we're in South Florida, pretty much everything that you do needs to be authorized or approved or permitted. Yes, the short answer is yeah, you do need a license. If you're going to operate a short-term rental, or actually anything less than 30 days, they actually technically consider it a transient lodging, but you need to go to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation and get a license to operate the rental. There's also some sales tax and some occupancy tax considerations that we'll get into in just a few minutes too. But essentially, yeah, you do need to get a license. But there is an exception to that. Let's say you have a 4-bedroom house and there's a sporting event, for example, it's coming into town. If you're only renting out a room or you're only renting out a portion of the property, then no, you don't need to have a license to do that. When we used to go watch Florida and Georgia play up in Jacksonville, we'd rent a room out on VRBO or Airbnb from somebody and kind of go hang out there. You don't need a license for that. If you're renting out the complete unit, be it a house, be it a condo, a duplex, a triplex, anything like that, then yes, you're going to have a license to do it. One of the things that comes up a lot with folks that are asking us about short-term rentals and about kind of the best way to get started and stuff like that is, where do we find them? Typically, an ideal thing is, like anything in real estate, it's location, location, location. The first 3 rules in real estate, of course, location. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to find something that is going to be close to an attraction or close to something people are coming to see. People play golf, you want them close to a golf course. If folks are coming down to go to the beach, obviously you want them close to the beach. And then for areas like Orlando and Tampa, which, we can certainly help you out with those too, you want to get something that's close to some of the amusement parks and some of the attractions that are down there. So location is definitely one of the primary considerations. Second thing is, what type of a property do you look at? What we have found, there's 2 kinds that seem to work better than some of the others. First and foremost is a single family home. 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 to 3 baths that are located either on a golf course or on the beach or walking distance from the beach are definitely great, because then a family can come down for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and they can rent it out for the entire time, and it's basically them. They can do whatever they want and everything works great. We've seen a huge increase in the number of condos that are actually being rented out. Now, condos present a little bit different scenario, a little bit different issues than single family homes do, because condos are typically managed and overseen by condo associations. So you need to check your association rules and regulations. You also need to check the zoning for that, because condos being zoned differently than single family homes also present some other different scenarios and some other different potential issues. And I was actually talking to one of our lenders a couple days ago about this, because we have some folks that are from out of town looking to buy. So, hey, Troy, this video is definitely for you. And Michael, it's also for you. One of the things that we're looking at now is they call them condotels. I think what they do is they give it that name because a lot of them are almost run like a hotel room. So there's an on-site management company. I think the Ritz does it, and there's a few other complexes, big complexes that have a lot of rooms down here. But they also have special financing for those and certain ways of titling those and stuff like that. If you have any questions about those, it's a lot of information to be provided. So if you have any questions about those specifically, drop us a note and we'll get back to you with some of the details. We can also hook you up with some of the lenders that we know that actually specialize in this type of financing, this type of lending. But essentially, with the advent of VRBO and Airbnb, folks are going crazy on being able to not only rent out rooms and rent out their principal residence, but they're also going out and looking for condos that basically meet that requirement so that they can rent it out the majority of the time and that they can also live in it for a period of time. And again, there are some rules and regulations around that, but we'll get into that as we continue to go along. Let's get to the meat. Folks want to know, how much should I be looking to make on this? What we tell folks is that in today's economy, in today's environment, a cap rate of anywhere between 8% and 12% is an ideal return. Now, short-term rentals, you can make a whole lot more, but they do require some additional expense and they do require some additional maintenance and upkeep and stuff like that. You should really be looking at somewhere between a minimum of 8 to 12% cap rate on your return. So the big question is, what is a cap rate? The cap rate is basically the net operating income divided by the fair market value. So you want to take what it costs on an annual basis to what your profit would be, your net operating income would be, hopefully it's not a loss, and then divide it by what the fair market value is. Now, a quick definition of your net operating income is basically whatever revenue that you derive on an annual basis, less your expenses, real estate taxes, maintenance fees, cleaning fees, stuff like that. Whatever the balance is, that's your net operating income. Fair market value can be either what you paid for the property if you've recently acquired it, or you can go back and contact a realtor and say, hey, look, what's my property worth? And then I'll give you an idea as to what the fair market value is. They'll go back and run some comps in the area, give you some idea of what the value would be worth. And you want to look at it from the standpoint of, if I were to sell it today, what would I get for it? That determines the worth, because keep in mind, the value of something isn't determined by the person selling it, it's determined by the person buying it. Now, that may fly in the face of some sellers out there, and I'm not trying to insult anybody. Next question is, how do you market it? With the advent of websites like VRBO and Airbnb, those are great places. They charge you a little bit more, but basically they handle everything. They collect the rental, they subtract out their management fee, they pay the taxes and everything like that. You're still going to be required to file those taxes, the sales tax and the occupancy tax, but they'll pay all that stuff for you. We suggest that you go to one of those places over going to some place like Craigslist or eBay or any places like that, because they do a very, very good job of vetting out the people who are coming in. They collect the deposits and they go back and do credit checks and stuff like that. Plus, they're set up to take credit card. And while you may have a great offer for somebody on Craigslist, you may or may not be in a position to take credit cards and whatnot. It just seems to be a little bit easier for everybody involved if you use VRBO or Airbnb. And that kind of brings up one of the next questions that comes out. Do I manage it myself, or do I hire a property manager? If you're going to manage it yourself, then you need to get a license to manage property. You need a license and a permit and authorization to do just about anything. Property management fees can be pretty steep. They can be anywhere from 17 to 30% of what the rental is, but they take care of pretty much everything for you. They make sure that the people are vetted. They make sure that everything is collected. They're on the up and up. They're licensed to do business in that area. They can provide you with a wealth of information on how you should list it, how you should lay it out, what makes sense in the area, what are the high points, what are the low points. It really helps out a lot to have somebody come in and do that. But again, a lot of folks, much like people will go out and sell the house by themselves and do a very, very good job of that. You can run into the same thing by managing it yourself. Just make sure that you fill out all the paperwork and get completely licensed and get everything done so that you can do that, because whatever revenue that you may make from this is going to be nothing compared to the fines if you're not in compliance. Much like anything else, the penalty is far worse than the price. The next piece is kind of around taxes. Yes, on short-term rentals, there are taxes that have to be paid and subsequently they have to be collected. What you're looking at is a combination of sales and occupancy tax. So if you check into a hotel anywhere, you'll basically see the tax signs on your hotel bill. Well, because you're in a hotel for less than 30 days, they're also considered short-term rentals. So basically it's the same thing down here. So you're going to be looking to pretty much the same thing that you do if you've ever checked into a hotel. And when you look at your bill afterwards, there's a tax, a sales tax, and a use tax for basically every day that you're in there. So essentially this is kind of how it works. Basically, after you get your license, they'll walk you through how to sign up so that you can pay the taxes to the Florida Department of Revenue. In Broward County, it's about 13%, and in the state of Florida, there's a 6% sales tax. You're going to be looking at paying somewhere around there, and the combination of those as far as taxes. Now, it's very, very important. If you collect tax, then you need to file the tax. Now, the state of Florida, like many states, many other states, made it a little bit easier for you. You can go ahead and you can file everything online and pay everything online and set up an account and stuff like that and get everything taken care of. Our suggestion is that if you're going to do that, then as soon as you collect the tax and everything is taken care of and the rental period is over, go ahead and file for the taxes and pay for the taxes for that particular period. There's no limit on the number of times you can file in a given period. If you're renting out for 3 days and you basically have 10 people over a 30-day period, you may want to file 10 times just to kind of keep things simple. Please don't forget to go ahead and do that, because the penalties and the interest are very, very steep. They can catch up with you very, very quickly. Earlier on, we talked about one of two tacks on this, either renting out your personal residence as a short-term rental or going out and purchasing a property that is basically specific for this. Some of the challenges in your personal residence basically are twofold. Number one is insurance. You want to make sure that your insurance company knows that you're going to be using this as a rental property, because there are some additional changes and some additional codicils that you may want to have in there. Also, you want to make sure that you have enough coverage so that in the event of something unforeseen gets happened, somebody gets hurt, somebody falls, something breaks or something like that, that you're covering. Down here in Florida, we have what is known as a homestead exemption. If you have a residence here in Florida and it's your primary residence, you can get exempt from anywhere between $25,000 on up for certain portions of the assessed value of your property. If you rent your personal residence out and you rent it out for more than 30 days in a 12-month period, you may lose that homestead exemption, because then they don't consider it a personal residence anymore. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about going out and renting out your personal residence. The demand for real estate in South Florida has always been strong, and it doesn't look like it's going to be tapering off anytime soon. As long as people are looking for sea, sand, beaches, boats, and fishing, there'll always be a very strong pull to people from all over the world coming to South Florida. And with the advent of VRBO and Airbnb making it easier for folks to go ahead and get their properties listed and get their properties rented, it's just going to continue to be a growing and increasing business. The great thing about short-term rentals is that it allows you to rent the property out and cover most, if not all, of your costs, for annual costs, and still have the opportunity to use the property yourself. So a lot of folks are looking at doing it that way. They'll come down for 2 weeks and be able to basically stay there and enjoy it and still rent it out for anywhere between 45 and 50 weeks out of the year. We hope you found our video interesting, informative.
Oh, and by the way, thank you so much for subscribing, and we really appreciate all of you, and to help us grow our channel.
And until next time,
We'll see you.
we'll see you.